Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hot Mode, and today on Hot Mode we're coming to you with your Grammys 2024 fashion roast and review. I'm gonna be completely honest, there were some nice moments, but for the most part it kind of sucked. It was bad, not good, not great, not wonderful, not exciting. The Grammys is this beautiful, weird, crazy, over-the-top experience, usually. And then, at the same time, you have nice moments that come in and they're more classic and clean, but overall, there was not that fun, wonderful, wacky, DIY craftiness, nor was there a whole lot of beautiful, clean, classic styles that really made one say, oh, amazing. It just happened. So with that, we have a lot to get through. I don't want to get through a lot of it, but we must. And so we're starting off with Alix Earle, TikToker. This is a vintage Alexander McQueen, beautiful fitted gown. No vomit on it, I assume. The thing is, it is, I would say, signature McQueen in the sense that there is a cowl neck. It's not really a dramatic cowl neck whatsoever. I appreciate a TikToker, influencer, if you will, at least knowing what Alexander McQueen is, and vintage McQueen. So appreciated. Well, yeah, so Alexander McQueen made beautiful pieces that are really, really lovely, and I think this fits her really, really well. I think they did a good job tailoring it. It is sort of blah, there's not much personality shining through. I haven't seen the back of the dress, but to me, with an Alexander McQueen gown, I would expect some sort of risque rigor going on. Maybe it's a really dramatic cowl in the back. Do I think that it's a beautiful dress? I do. And it fits her really, really well, and I appreciate that she knows her proportions, and that's good. But going forward, if you're gonna wear vintage McQueen, pick a moment that one would say, oh, I would not expect that from you, Miss Earle. This feels very swipe after 3 seconds on my For You page. Next up, Billie Eilish. She's wearing this Willy Chavarria look, but on top she's wearing a Barbie X Chrome Hearts varsity jacket. And saying that sentence makes me want to strike my trachea multiple times, because I don't like the fact that all of those words fell out of my very, very annoying mouth. And then on top of it, I don't like the jacket. Listen, I understand people like chrome hearts. I get it, there's chrome heart buttons on this jacket, but just because we charge a lot of money for something does not necessarily mean that it's good. It's a merch jacket with chrome hearts. I feel like any other place besides maybe the Grammys red carpet is a moment to do that. There was a whole press tour for Barbie. Pull it out then. For now, the Grammys red carpet, I don't know. I feel like maybe this is not the time for a merch jacket that probably costs, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000 maybe. Do we think that it actually costs that much to make? No, not at all. I wouldn't say so. But I understand we wanted to wear the jacket, and I do think that Willy Chavarria is a really cool designer. She's worn Willy before. The other thing, though, to me is you have a designer who really understands these sort of oversized proportions, is constantly experimenting with different silhouettes when it comes to those oversized proportions. And we chose the black pant and the white shirt, which I get, but the cut of the pant is kind of blah. The shirt, blah. It feels really lazy. And if you want to be the Adam Sandler of music, do your thing. But at the same time, I still shit on Adam Sandler when he shows up to a red carpet in basketball shorts. So prepare yourself. It's not going to be a fun, easy, good old ride here. Now, speaking of suits I like, Boy Genius. I really think this is a nice little moment. I like the fact that they wear Thom Browne. It seems like they mostly do Thom Browne looks, and I think it really, really works well. The three wonderful people of Boy Genius, Phoebe Bridgers, who's on the left, Lucy Dacus, who's in the middle, and Julien Baker, who's on the right, are all wearing these matching white suits. They have the signature Thom Browne sort of cropped length jacket. They have that very high, rolled up little pant leg, but I love the fact that these crispy little white suits are all in a moire silk. Now, moire silk, it's almost like when you put oil in water. And then you swirl it around a little bit and it makes that beautiful sort of moving, liquidy concoction. And that's kind of what moire does. It's a really beautiful style. It's something also that I never really feel like I've seen too much from Thom Browne. And it's also not something I feel like I see a whole lot of in white. In that regard, I think it's a cool mixture, and I think it's a little bit of a step out for Thom Browne as well. I have seen Boy Genius wear looks that are similar but not the same, but I also don't mind if they wear all the same looks on certain occasions, and I think that in regards to these suits, they work really, really well. I think the boutonniere, the pink and the red, is also very, very sweet. Overall, I'm into it. Good fabric choices are good fabric choices. Now, next up we have Caroline Polachek, who is wearing this beautiful floor-length, high-slit gown that has a turtleneck, and there's this big veiny motif running throughout the bodice, along the sleeves, the shoulders, and what I thought was a heart isn't actually a heart, but if we look up close, we can see that there is a cutout section, but it's covered in red lace. Now, this is by the Belgian designer Olivier Theyskens. Now, some of you may remember Olivier Theyskens because he was at Rocha, he was at Nina Ricci, and he also has his own brand, and Madonna wore one of his looks, and it was quite a big moment for Olivier's work. But I don't know anything really about Caroline Polachek. I apologize. But I do love this dress. I think it is a beautiful style, and at the same time, I think it's a great example of you can have something that fits really, really well, that makes a beautiful sort of classic silhouette really pop, but at the same time, it can have a little bit of a message. It can have a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of depth, even if it's a little bit more morbid or macabre, like the red blood veins. Sure. At the same time, when you mix that with this skirt that flares out ever so effortlessly and really creates a gorgeous sort of texture, a real sort of draping, it's lovely. It's wonderful. Now, I do know that this collection, which is, I believe, is a fall 1998 Olivier Theyskens collection, was actually based not on something super duper morbid, I would say, objectively, but was rather based on the idea of the anatomy and the way that anatomy was sort of studied either during the Renaissance or in like the 17th or 18th centuries. Not sure which one exactly, and I know that's a bit of a time jump, but in reality, there is like, again, a depth to why these veins are sort of shooting out. I just think it's a cool dress. I really love it. I'm very proud. And I feel like we're seeing a lot of vintage styles, things that are pulled from designers' archives. Some people are saying they're archives and they might not be archives. That's a different conversation. We'll save that for later. But shout out to Caroline Polachek. Next up, we have Coco Jones, who is wearing Celia Krithriaroti. This is like, I don't know, my grandmother going to church. It's not really stand out in the world of the Grammys. I think that this sheer chainmail is quite sweet. I think the color is nice. Listen, I don't think it's a bad dress at all. Stack it against everything else that we're seeing, and it really falls to the wayside. It's not very interesting. I do think that at the waist, it seems like it's really cinched in, and that's a little bit noticeable. So like that would be my only fit issue, just because it's a little bit sharp in there. But besides that, it's a pretty dress. But again, memorable? Absolutely not. Now, next up we have Leray, who is wearing the Saint Laurent bodysuit style with this green feather, I believe it's an ostrich jacket that she's holding. She's not actually wearing it. Now, the thing that I think is really, really interesting is from what I heard, I didn't see it, but apparently Leray was like, oh, this is archival Saint Laurent, but it's really from 2019, so it's really not that archival. What I do think is interesting about the look is it's a really good reference back to one of Yves Saint Laurent's most controversial collections ever, which is the 1971 Haute Couture Scandal collection. Because she doesn't have the jacket on, it doesn't really have the same effect. But as soon as I see a black look with full stocking and a black pump and a green jacket, a bright green jacket like that from Saint Laurent, I say, oh, Scandal. Okay. Now, the Scandal collection was where Yves Saint Laurent referenced the actual dress styles of the women in Paris during the 1940s when the Nazis were occupying France. And the French hate thinking about that. They despise it, especially the Parisians. Yves Saint Laurent, who didn't actually grow up in France, but grew up in Algeria, but was French, referenced the collection, and everybody was like, no, babe, that's rude, we don't like that. And so it was called the Scandal Collection because it referenced the 1940s where the Parisians were like, we don't want to remember the bad times, okay? We were very deeply on chic in that moment because we were trying to survive. We don't want to think about it. That's kind of what this look is referencing because one of the iconic looks from that collection is this beautiful green fur coat that is worn with just sort of stockings and like a black little heel. And so that's what Koi's referencing. And maybe that's what she meant by the archival nod or talking about archival moments is she probably understands that this is a reference to that collection, which is again from 1971, which would make it archival. It's just that the look she is wearing is not archival. Do I like it? Sure, because I like the history reference of it. I don't know enough about Koi's career to know whether or not there's a deeper meaning in all of that. But I do wish that she put the jacket on, honestly, and I would hope that, like, going forward, there's some sort of picture where she's turned around and is sort of doing the pose of the iconic Scandal collection style, because I think that that really is where it hits. Cool reference. I appreciate it. I'm not like totally dying over it because again, full look is not really realized in the photos that I've seen, but I appreciate a solid experience historically. And also, I think the bodysuit looks good. Next up, we have Dawn Richard, who's wearing Khosrov. And I don't know the brand, but I would like to now know the brand, because this is weird, wacky, wild, and wonderful. And it's everything I think the Grammys should be. I think that Dawn really has captured that amazing line where on one side is crazy and the other side is glamour. And this is that. So it's pretty much a red gown. Up until the waist, it's pretty matte. There's not really a lot of draping. But once we get into the actual bodice of the dress, it starts to have this sort of very fine gathering draping. And then instead of having straps per se, the strap sort of like becomes surrealist of sorts and like move up and create this like canopy over her head of red flowers. I assume they're fabric flowers, vein and jut out in all these different directions. It creates this beautiful sort of shape over top of her. To me, it really does feel like surrealism. It's dreamy, it's sort of strange. It looks like it is out of a Dr. Seuss book. I think it's exciting. And yeah, is she wearing a red tree? Sure. Am I living for it? Absolutely. I also think like this is the Grammys. This is the time to like really do a wham bam crazy outfit that one will say, oh my gosh, I don't know you, but you're so crazy. Put a best worst dress list, but it doesn't matter which side of the best or the worst dress list you're on. If you're on the list, that is what is important. And this is a best to me, but it might be a worst to others. But at the same time, nobody's gonna forget Dawn Richard, okay? Next up, we have Doja Cat, who's wearing Dilara Findikoglu. Now, this is just a fully sheer dress. It's a fitted corset. We can see the boning of the corset going through, helping to create that triangular Dorito upside down shape. And then it's a sheer skirt. It's pretty much like a sheath skirt of some sort. There's a piece of fabric that is underneath and sort of draped over the pelvic area and then flows out of that sort of sheath skirt and creates like a little bit of a train. She's wearing red heels. The peep toe is back and I don't think there's anything anybody can do about it. So if you're offended and you're appalled, I'm sorry. But also like, you don't have to get into it. You don't. You can keep your toes closed. You don't need to participate. Now, here's the thing. I don't know exactly what the reference for this dress is because it is a custom piece and I can't really pin it to any Dilara Findikoglu collection that I've seen recently. But the collection that I would pin it to, if I could directly pin it to a collection, is her most recent collection, which I believe was fall 2023, and was titled Not a Man's Territory, which probably would be the moment that we would all say, Luke, stop talking. Let's move on to the next look. But I'm gonna have to enter the territory that is not a man's territory. The collection was based on essentially women taking back their bodies and taking back the idea that why is it that everything that a woman does has to be exploited, discussed? Why does a man always have something to say about a woman, specifically her outfits? If you're a homosexual man that has two fingers and always has something to say about women's outfits, point it at yourself. It's me. So with that in mind, I absolutely love it. It's a great dress. So no. Listen, I think that it's a cool message. I think that it's a great way for artists to have that conversation. And I think that's probably what Doja is going for, if I can assume such things. Again, assuming as a man. But I feel like most recently, in terms of her work and her music, it's a lot of, why are you bothered with any of the stuff that I am doing? And so I assume maybe that's the reference point for this dress. The fact that, well, yes, we have blurred the bust area. It is fully sheer, and there's only really a little bit of beige fabric that is covering up the pelvic area. It does seem like it's a commentary about that, which, I gotta respect. I don't have the lived experience, so I don't really, I can't speak to that. With that message, do I think that it all plays into itself rather well? Yeah. Do I hate the dress? No, because I do think that no matter if it's just a sheer beige dress, it does fit nice. I do think that it fits into the lexicon of, the Grammys, although, again, we've seen a lot of the nakedness before. It's not new, but it's certainly in the weird, wacky, wonderful Grammys history. So here's my thing. I like it. It's nice. Am I obsessed with it? Am I going to remember it? No. But at the same time, it's not hurting my eyes whatsoever. Now, speaking of hurting my eyes, Dua Lipa in Courreges, which I just want to be very upfront and honest. I love Courreges. I liked Courreges before Nicolas de Felice was there. I've always liked Courreges. I like Nicolas de Felice at Courreges. I think he's very good. I don't like this dress. I understand wanting to have a very sort of relaxed fit gown. It's not working. I'm not seeing the vision. Now, what I will say is it's a sheer dress that does have all of these little pieces of silver that are sewn on to create this sort of scaly, I don't want to say paco because, you know, we're just naming 60s designers, but there's kind of like a chainmail, metallic, futuristic thing here happening. I can't really find a whole lot of chainmail metal history going on. I think Courreges to me is much more about shapes, proportions, A-lines, really bright, bold colors using like vinyl and, you know, sort of leather styles. Feel that this feels like a Paco Rabanne homage and not really like an Andre Courreges homage. And as like a Courreges lover, I want a little bit more Courreges than I do other 60s space age designer who's like we've seen a lot of. I just feel like it was a missed opportunity on everybody's part, and I feel like Du has been wearing a lot of like really red styles, and like why not do that beautiful recreated now by Nicolas de Felice, who's the creative director of Courreges, that new vinyl that they're doing, that kind of more eco-conscious vinyl, doing that bright red. And like making a gown out of that, or making some sort of two-piece tunic set, or so, just something a little bit more Courreges to me. And I don't know, I don't love it. I also just think the fit of it is like tough to swallow, and I don't really think it's amazing. I appreciate the pieces of metal and all that, and a lot of work went into it. I respect it, but I don't like it. Sorry, not sorry. Next up we have Fantasia Barrino, who's wearing Kong Tree. I like this a lot, genuinely, because I think that it's a great example, again, of walking that fine line of weird and also really nice, classic, easy. I love this cowl neck drape with the beige and the black glitter sort of stripes and strips that run throughout it. I like the fact that it's not just the lines are sharp and harsh and they contour the body that way, but rather I like the fact that there's a languidity of the fabric and that it curves in sort of like a half circle way rather than just being line that goes from your bust to your waist and then from your waist to your hip and then down again to the knee and then down. You know what I mean? That's normally what happens with line work when it comes to dresses, and it makes sense why you see that, but I think that there's a cool element of movement, that curvature. As for the rest of the dress, I appreciate the matching gloves. I think that's cool, and at the waist we can see that the black lines do actually sort of crisscross, I believe, come together to sort of again shape the waist. As we move down, we can see that the strips sort of eventually falter and fall away around the knee area, and then the beige just sort of takes over. I really do like the bust area. Might not be as obsessed with the rest of the dress per se, but I think it's a different way to work with lines than what we're used to seeing all the time on the carpets. And also like the lip jewelry, very good. It's a nice, subtle, easy way to draw attention there, but it doesn't have to be, you know, super big makeup or super big hair. Just nice, subtle, easy. Next up we have Phineas, who's wearing Givenchy, and it's just blah, blah, blah. Who cares? It's not memorable. And my issue, more so with this than I would have had in recent seasons and years, is the menswear collection that just happened for Givenchy was really cool. I thought it was really good. It got a lot of heat. I thought it was very well done. I thought it made a lot of nice references to Hubert de Givenchy. And to me, this is like, oh, it's a black crop shirt and a pant. Wow, you know? Whereas in that collection, there was this like beautiful cropped, tailored tuxedo jacket. There were these like lovely little headpieces that had trompe-l'oeils of hair. It was just like, it was fun and it was cool. And I feel like this is such a missed opportunity to like play into that. So I'm kind of annoyed because it could have been much better and much more interesting and much more memorable for Phineas. Next up we have Gracie Abrams. She's wearing Chanel. So Gracie, I apologize. It's not really your fault. You just are unfortunately the sacrificial lamb that is going to get slaughtered. The black crop top, hate, really hate. Not because like I hate it so much, but like this is, I believe, supposed to be haute couture. And just something about the black crop top doesn't really scream exciting, memorable, whatever. Do I think that it fits well? Yeah, because even as I'm looking at it in the way that it, you know, fits over the bust, like it does fit phenomenally. So like that's the cool thing about seeing haute couture, especially on red carpets, is they usually fit very well. And I do think that the crop top does fit, but it's a black crop top, and then you have the skirt, the dark navy blue silk skirt that does the triangular ruffle that flares out at the hip and then comes back in at the front. And like, again, I get it. It's a Chanel reference and it's old and it's 30s or it's 20s or it's 40s, whatever. It's ugly as sin. It is disgusting. It is awful. It looks like a used napkin. It's just not great. And I say with all due respect, Gracie, get that bag. Go in there and get that Chanel contract and live your best life because you're going to get paid very, very well, I assume. But at the same time, part of what comes with that contract is you're going to look like shit a lot. So prepare yourself. Hate that. Hate that a lot. But good for her. She's going to do just fine. She's just going to look awful while doing it. Next up, we have Ice Spice. I love this. I do. I really, really do. I think this is like perfect Grammys attire. You have Ice Spice in this nice, it's probably not raw denim, but like to me, the dark, dark coloring and the stitching really does read raw denim to me. It's this long, high-waisted skirt that has this big train and the slit up the front is frayed, which I just really, really love. And then you have a matching jacket. It's a cropped sort of jacket, but it is lined with some sort of white, brown, orangey fur, and it's very cool. Now, it's by Bloomerine, which is the Italian brand that I love, and has had a renaissance in recent seasons, so it's really, really cool to see Ice Spice working with Bloomerine, because I feel like we don't get to see enough red carpet moments from Bloomerine. But to me, I think this really, as somebody from New York, this really reads like New York to me. It feels like something that somebody from New York would wear.
Are you from New York even?
Not, down the street or taking the subway, but it feels like a more sort of glamorized red carpet, wear it for the evening, but it's a really, really big evening kind of look. I like the Bloomerine belt. I really love the jacket. I think that fur lining, I don't know if it's faux, but I assume it's faux. I think that faux lining and the way that it pokes out at all the different places on the sleeve, at the cuff, it's great. It's fun. It's cool. It's this trumped up glamour. It feels very Y2K, which I think Bloomerine as a brand is very much so synonymous with. I think this is that perfect twinge and twang of glamour. She looks beautiful. She looks radiant. She looks elegant, but it's these textiles and fabrics that you normally would not associate necessarily with a red carpet look. And I think that's the great thing about the Grammys is this is a moment. Because she thinks she's the shit, and she is, but she's also the fart. Bitches be quick, but she's quicker. Bitches be thick, but she's thicker. Bitches be rich, but she is in fact richer in this Bloomerine moment. And we also have become richer from having seen it. So I would like to thank Ice Spice. Next up, we have Janelle Monáe, who's wearing Armani Privé. Listen, Armani Privé, if you don't know, is the haute couture line of Giorgio Armani. I will say, you're gonna see an Armani Privé look, and it's gonna fit. And this Janelle Monáe dress, it fits. The waist fitted at the knee, it's fitted. I love the silhouette of it. I also think that Mr. Armani understands the idea of feeling really, really modern, even though he's really just using black sequins to create this effect. I do think the big flower in the middle, to me, is the hindrance, although when you look at a lot of Armani Privé styles, you will see those big sort of flowers in the center on occasion. So I understand where it's coming from. I just don't love it. I think without that, it's the essence of glamour, of beauty. At the same time, in terms of the Grammys, would I say, yes, this is like kind of blah, boring, uninteresting in that regard? Sure, I would, and I do stand by that. But at the same time, house codes of Armani are not really wacky, weird, and wild. It's much more dour, conservative, but at the same time created oh so beautifully. I understand and completely appreciate where Janelle Monáe is coming from here. I did see her in a Rahul Mishra haute couture look a day ago, and I feel like that would have been the dress for this moment, but I'm digressing. I do love the dress on her. I do wish it was a little bit more exciting though. Next up is Joni Mitchell. Now let's have this conversation. Because Joni Mitchell is how old? I don't know. But what I'm going to say is Jody is turning it out. So every single person that has not turned it out this evening, who said, oh, it's too much effort, I don't want to. No. Joni Mitchell is an icon. This beautiful black velvet look by Johnny Was with the matching pant and the matching top and the matching coat is stunning. So I don't want to hear the bullshit excuses. Remember Joni Mitchell and say, oh, if she can serve, I can serve. Yes, ma'am, yes. Next up is Kat Graham. She is wearing Stéphane Rollin. This is a cool haute couture look. This is what I mean, where you have this beautiful element of the Grammys of weird, wacky, wonderful. I know I say that all the time, the 3 W's. Forget the 5 W's. You don't need it. You need the 3 W's, weird, wacky, and wonderful. I think this is great. And on top of that, I think that it does have a sort of refined, upscale glamour to it as well. Now, it's this sheer diagonal cut gown that is underneath, and it's white. And so I assume that most of the top of the dress has this sort of sheer fabric that shows off the body, but it's also slashed across the waist and the hips and the bust line too. And the rest of that slash is the sort of beautiful opaque white. It sort of plays against itself because you have this beautiful, almost like curved, cropped collar thing that turns into a train, and it's geometric, and it's weird, and it's like, I don't know, looking at like a cubist piece of art. And I love it. It's cool, it's exciting, it's different. And at the same time, I think that she understands how to still have the poise and the glamour to really sell oneself as chic and elevated and elegant. And I think that that's a lot of the time part of the job. Like, that is a part of the job. Sell me the garment, okay? I can see it on a rack. I don't need you to wear it. But if you know how to sell the garment, people will want to buy it. And they'll say, oh, she sold me that garment. I remember her. I love that for her. Shout out to Kat Graham. Next up, we have Kylie Minogue. And listen, this Dolce & Gabbana look, I don't love it. I don't. I really don't. And I appreciate Kylie trying, but I hate the dress. Here's the thing. I do think the red is bright and vibrant and yada, yada, yada. And I understand that Dolce with the lacing up and the corsets and all that, I like the history, yeah. But I think that the length of the lace almost is too long. And so that sort of lengthens the torso. And I don't think that, respectfully to Kylie Minogue, she's that tall. You gotta know your proportions, and sometimes things shrink you. And I feel like this is shrinking her. It's not doing anything for the legs. I think that if the proportions were different, I actually would like this a lot, which is shocking because it's Dolce. The proportions of the lace up need to be changed. But besides that, I don't hate this dress. I think it looks nice on her. Moving on. Next up, we have Lana Del Rey, who is not wearing anybody. So Lana just found this black sheer floral covered dress with a little puffed sleeve and said, I'm wearing it. And it's not archival. It's not from a recent designer. I thought it was Rodarte at first because it does look like recent Rodarte. It's not that. I haven't really listened to any of Lana's new music, so I don't really have an understanding of where it's coming from or if there's some sort of tie-in, but I just think it's pretty on her. I think the length is really good. I think it's different. I think it's not something that you see a whole lot of on the carpets. I do think that the puff sleeve, I think the little bows on the gloves and the bows on the shoes all sort of tie into just Lana being Lana and sort of romantic and a lot of the time also kind of gothic in certain ways. I like it. Is it the most memorable thing Lana Del Rey has ever worn? No. But at the same time, I think Lana Del Rey is slowly building herself back into being in the mainstream light and world and all that jazz. I like it. I think that it's different. I think it's a little weird. It's a little wacky. After Dillard's, the only way it can go is up. So I'll take it. Next up, we have Miley Cyrus, who wore a custom Maison Margiela full gold safety pin look. Yes, that was my initial reaction, still kind of is. Now here's the thing, we're seeing a lot of Margiela all of a sudden. John Galliano debuted a spectacular couture collection that most people ate up with a spoon. In reality, it seems that we're getting a little bit of Margiela on the carpets, which is rather rare. But this isn't really a super Margiela reference. Around the neckline and the sort of straps that fall off the shoulders, the bust sort of circle details, and the gold eagle thing at the pelvic region is all made out of gold safety pins. And I would say that in the world of Margiela making dresses out of objects that aren't normally seen as things you should make dresses out of, pretty Margiela, the idea of deconstruction and all that jazz. The thing that's actually really interesting is this Margiela look is a reference to one of John Galliano's old collections, specifically this look that is from the fall 1997 collection, which I believe was called the Susie Sphinx collection, so it was very much so inspired by the ideas and notions of ancient Egypt. Even the wig on the model from 1997 seems to be a play and a touch on all of that. Miley's version differs a little bit. I think the bust circles are very different, but that sort of gold pelvic bird thing is very similar. But I really like it. I think it's beautiful. I also think it's really intriguing because she decided and opted to not wear some sort of slip dress or any sort of fabric underneath that I can see except maybe brief, like a sheer brief, or maybe it's like a thong, I don't know, but you really can't see anything underneath. which I think is cool. I think it's exciting. I think that it again plays on the history of the Grammys and the fact that we love a little sheer moment here and there. I think it's chic. I do think that I would like a little bit more Margiela referencing from Galliano when it comes to like the red carpet. Important to make sure that the Margiela-isms materialize on the carpet. And like, as much as I love a John Galliano greatest hits, going forward, I want to see more Margiela-y references transported and transformed into red carpet series and styles, because I think that would give a much broader historical understanding for people that aren't into fashion and don't understand the history and the impact of Martin Margiela's work. The other thing though is she's wearing a tabby. She's wearing a yellow velvet tabby with gold straps. Peep toe, you don't have to do, but everybody should wear a tabby at least once in their life. You look like you have like moose knuckles, but at the same time, who doesn't want to look like they have a moose knuckle? Who doesn't want to look like they got their little clip cloppers clip clopping, okay? The horse girls, get into it. It's just cool. I also just love the fact that Miley went for it. I think it seems like recently she's become really like a fashion girl. She wants to embody the brands and the aesthetics and the ethoses of what she is wearing and the designers that she's working with. And I think this is a great example of that. And I think that it's also a great example of when you let yourself meld a little bit with that energy, it can work out really well, because if you don't let it overtake you, which here I think Miley does a great example of still keeping herself in it, it makes a really beautiful new cocktail that everybody wants to try. It's like the espresso teeny that just keeps giving. Next up, we have Olivia Rodrigo. She's wearing vintage Versace and like clingy dress, and Olivia Rodrigo always wears a clingy dress. And I'm happy that she wears vintage styles, and that's great. But also, I just want to say that like this look specifically was worn by Linda Evangelista on the runway. That's a tough act to follow for anybody, especially somebody that chooses time and time again to never really try to sell you the garment. And that's always and will always be my issue with Olivia Rodrigo. She finds things, and that's great, and that's wonderful. She has her little silhouette. It's very Taylor Swift of her. She does what she does. She doesn't really care what anybody thinks, which is fine. Live your best life. While I have to look at it, I'm just like, if you could put a little bit more energy and effort into the performance for while you're on the carpet, that would really make my job easier, because maybe I could sell whatever bullshit you're trying to sell to other people on your behalf. But if you keep blah blah one arm pose like this every single time, it's really a hard sell for me. You're wearing a legendary dress worn by a legendary model, and that's our reference, and then you're just kind of blasing it, and it's not really working for me. The dress also, it's fine. Listen, I love Gianni Versace, don't get it twisted, but not really one of the more memorable, exciting styles that he ever made. So thanks. Let's move on though, because Summer Walker, I don't know who she's wearing, but I love it. I love it. It's cool, it's fun, it's full of feathers, it's weird, it's wacky. She has a headpiece, thank God. This dress, I love. I love the feathers that sort of load out of the bust. I love the fact that the waist still has a little bit of feathering on it, but we still see a waist there. The corset is corseting, it's cinching. And then the rest of the dress goes full feather explosion. Again, white, beautiful, over the top, ridiculous. And then just the headpiece, the hat, the like diagonal brim hat. It's just cool. It's exciting. And I think it's another great example of the fact that I feel like a lot of celebrities are scared to like get into the headpiece game, because they're like, it's gonna make the audience not know who I am immediately. And like, that's fine. Let there be a little mystique. Let there be a little bit of, ooh, who, oh, that's what you want. That's what we should be living for. And I think that Summer Walker here does a great example of just saying, this is my outfit. It's amazing. You can eat it up. I'm going to let myself be washed over a little bit by whatever's going on to really give us a memorable thing, a memorable moment, something exciting. And this is that to me. I'm excited. I love this. It's fun. It's funky. It's crazy. It's over the top. But at the same time, still glamorous, still beautiful. Again, has that nice sort of classic proportion, that fitted gown. But there's something a little twisted, a little zesty about it that I'm very overjoyed to see. Okay, I feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster. Next up, Taylor Swift. She's wearing Schiaparelli Haute Couture too, which I think is the craziest part about this whole thing is, listen, it's a beautiful dress. I'm not gonna say it's not. It's a beautiful white draped dress with a high slit and all that. I love a Schiaparelli Haute Couture, but just like Taylor Swift consistently is like, how can I do the least possible. And like, I get it. Again, I understand. I respect it. She shouldn't have to acquiesce to our every whim. And she doesn't. Let's be real with ourselves here. Next weekend's big weekend. She got a lot going on. I get it. But I just feel like with Schiaparelli, you can wear a really simple style, a really simple, beautiful fitted gown like this that really shows off curves and is elegant and really ethereal and wonderful. But why not lend yourself to wearing maybe, crazy ask here, one of like the crazy jewelry pieces in gold, like a big earring that has an oyster or I don't know, a planet or something to reference one of your eras or a football or I don't know. And also, like, do you think that Schiaparelli would not make you some mold, gold, busted, boosted, whatever piece of jewelry that's crazy and over the top and ridiculous that you want that fits in with the world of Taylor Swift? I bet you $5. She says jump. They say how high? And also how many people in the atelier do you need to jump? Because they would. I bet you they would. I don't think there's any brand in fashion that would say, I'm okay. Maybe a few, but like very, very few. So I just feel like this is on Taylor to me, and it's on her team, style-wise, to just like lay yourself into the brand a little bit more. You don't have to be like the perfect Taylor, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. You wore the Travis Kelce jacket made by NFL wife. So like, why can't you wear a gold earpiece or something, or a gold glove, or a gold something exciting, cool, and surreal about Schiaparelli? And that's my issue. Like the gloves, that's like the big style moment. I do like the necklace. Whatever is going on the layering thing, I don't really understand it. It's like a clock watch necklace. I don't know. I think it's cool. But again, I just feel like you could take that necklace and put that on any other Taylor Swift look, and I'd say, okay, cool, I really enjoy that. But in this moment, give me something weird. You're wearing the brand that's all about weird. It's about being surreal, and you're just being not that. So that's why I'm mad. You know what I mean? This is a beautiful dress. She looks really good. I really do enjoy it. I just am like a little bit bored of the picture perfect shit. I'm tired. Next up, we have Tyla, and she is wearing Versace. Now, here's the thing about the dress. Is it my personal love? No. But do I know that this is very Versace, that sort of draped and gathered, really sort of finely pulled sort of texture on styles? Yes. I do love the exposure of the stomach. Don't love the crystal elements, but I like the fact that they are sort of moving their way on one side. It's not random panels of crystals all over. There's a movement of it. I understand why it would be there. I understand the need for it to cover up certain elements. I think the color looks really, really nice on her. And I do think that the pulled bandage kind of things does reference back to the image from her album for Water, like a sort of bathing suit and fluidity and movement and languidity. So like, I do get it. I do understand it. I think that it makes sense. And even like the way that the skirt sort of drapes feels like a waterfall and water and movement and all that. I get it. Is it my favorite dress? No. But I appreciate her wearing something that fits in with the vibe. I do think that maybe wearing blue would have been a bit on the nose. So I think a seafoam green is totally fine. Overall, yeah, I want to see more from Tyla going forward. Next up, we have Victoria Monet, who is wearing Versace as well. Again, I'm not obsessed with the dress. I love the color. I think it's a beautiful color. I think that the silk and the shine is really lovely. I do also like love a Versace corset moment. I think the way that the lines run through and sort of help to shape the body is always cool and is always nice. I think that the draping on the hip is maybe more so what throws me off. And I understand that you need to have an area that leads in to the corset and into the skirt, but something about the texture of it, I think, is throwing me off. It just feels a little disconnected from whatever else is going on elsewhere. Even at the bust line and the rest of the skirt just has a very sort of matte, flat, non-textured feel to it. And then the texture on the hips, to me, just throws it off and confuses me, and I don't love it. I do like the bust line. Again, I do really like the color on her. I also feel like Victoria Monet really does like try. She's working her way to being a fashion girl to me. In that regard, everybody has their moments. It's not my style of dress, and there's just one big issue that I have with it, but the rest of it I can get behind. The hips, I can't. I don't want to look at anymore. And finally, we have Zach Bryan and Brianna Chicken Fry. Let's talk about them really quick. Zach Bryan, blah, uninteresting, boring. Zach Bryan, do better. I want more, need more, a black suit. Wow, radical. How uninteresting. As for Brianna Chicken Fry, take a page out of Alix Earle's book. Start renting vintage designer pieces, because I don't hate Reformation for people, but you're at the Grammys. So you're not normal people anymore. You know, I do like the sleeve on it, but like it feels prom. And again, Grammys. You shouldn't dress like you're at the prom, or even homecoming, or even senior formal. I don't know. It shouldn't look like that. So that is the end of our Grammys fashion roast and review. Let's talk about best and worst. Best, I am giving to Caroline Polachek. I'm going to give it to Dawn Richard. I'm going to give it to Ice Spice. I'm going to give it to Joni Mitchell. Shout out. I'm going to say Kat Graham, Miley Cyrus, Summer Walker. And I think that's good. As for worst, Dua Lipa I didn't love. Billie Eilish, really hate. Zach Bryan, Brianna Chicken Fry, very not impressed. Olivia Rodrigo, hate. I'm sorry. Kylie Minogue also I was not. Gracie Abrams, not good. Phineas, too boring. Yeah, there. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and TTY hell.